artificial intelligence is going to become the basis for national competitiveness in the next few years. If we're going to measure the biggest nations in the next 50, 30 years, it's going to be the degree to which every nation has applied artificial intelligence in driving governance, capacity building, education, city planning, service allocation, and so many other things. I think it's just important to establish that common truth, that all road leads to data as far as our collective future is concerned. The second issue that comes to it is the possibility that artificial intelligence will enable vis-a-vis the old theorem of the fourth industrial revolution, where there's a convergence of physical and digital. And the key currency that determines the capability of that interdependency is the quality of data. And there might be data, what we call big data, in its variety and volume. The quality of thinking that will bring to interpreting the data, for me, is the ultimate game changer. So what that means is that if data or artificial intelligence is going to become the basis for national competitiveness, the level of knowledge that we bring to the table as a country in terms of building local skill set becomes the next conversation. And the next thing will be, how do we now apply it to solve problems that are unique to us? I was just having a chat with Maria before we came to the podium about what is happening in China today, where if you are a grade 5 student in China, you must learn artificial intelligence. It's part of the curriculum. Interestingly, in Data Science Nigeria, we use the same curriculum for a summer school, and we saw that that level of grade 5 is almost like 100 level computing in a Nigerian university.
Wow.
So I think it's important to come to start from that point, that there is an emergency, and we just got to start now.
The DNA of artificial intelligence brings the theory of data insight and the theory of research together. And then when you dimension AI, artificial intelligence, in its entirety, it goes into 3 levels. So you have the narrow artificial intelligence, which has to do with facial recognition and things like that. Then you have the general AI that does things like chatbot, etc. And then you have the superlative AI that we've not even got into. So the robotics roadmap in solving problems, in automating processes, creating adaptive intelligence, helping nations and enterprise, even as it applies to fintech. If you're looking at things like next best offer, best candidate for the job, best, a contract for a proposition. Those are some of the things that AI brings to the table. And AI closely marries machine learning. So you begin to uncouple AI into machine learning as well, where you apply pattern and statistical models into enabling artificial intelligence to understand that data. In fact, there's a research that says that only 12% of CEOs understand where the data of the organization is going. I mean, that for me is a conundrum that we need to solve. So we bring it to the local context as well. When we look at financial inclusion, when we look at nation building, governance, policy, and things like that, artificial intelligence helps you to unlock that roadmaps and set you for the future.
Right. And I don't know to what extent we have people from the public sector in the room, but who really needs to get this message? Who is the leader, if you like, of the ecosystem? Will it be ultimately the government?
That's a fantastic question. It's an ecosystem with all key stakeholders relevant. The government at the policy level, the enterprise at the corporate level, the citizenry at the individual level, and the extended community in ECOWAS. So it's a ubiquitous stakeholder. Everybody needs to get the message, actually.
I think the structure of the emerging markets, or even African and Nigerian society, is quite different to that of our developed nations. There's much more diversity in people, processes, and systems, right? So we are at a point where we can address and probably solve our lack of physical infrastructure with digital infrastructure, right? And AI has the capacity to process and singularize our data without destroying our diversity, right? So I think that to support the points made by my fellow panelists, I think that AI is made for our society because we are diverse and we do things differently, and it's easier to work with AI than to try to change who we are at our core. Right, so your second question, in terms of people generating the data and people using the data. There's a lot of conversation in the world now about data privacy. And I think it's very important for Nigeria and Africa to enter that conversation very carefully and not sing the same tune that the rest of the world is singing, right? Because the tune that's being sung in the rest of the world is that data should be private, data should be owned, you know, you need to go through 10 different hoops to get my information. I mean, this is all nice and luxurious when you live in a society that can function perfectly and provide full services to citizenry offline. Now, in societies where the infrastructure doesn't exist unless it's digital, if we make the same data privacy arguments, we will not have the infrastructure. It's a 0-1 situation for us, where in developed countries, there's a little bit of gray area. So I think it's very important, and I'm speaking to everybody in the room, the entire stakeholder map that my colleague here mentioned, is we need to be very careful. If for instance, you know, with Minds, we are creating a lending capability that did not exist in the partners that we served before.
Sorry, can you just describe what Minds does so
good,
people
yes.
can appreciate
Yes,
that?
so Minds has in a short phrase, a credit as a service platform, which we offer to banks, telcos, retailers, right? Whose businesses will run smoother or will generate more revenue if they are able to extend financing or loans to the customer bases that they have. So our loans are often denominated, most often denominated at 10,000 naira, but we've given loans as low as 500 naira. Now, these are loans that are not cost effective to serve physically with a branch. It just doesn't make sense. But in order to do that, all right, one of the things we rarely say in meetings is that we are an AI company. I mean, because this is a technology conference, we say that, but how we present ourselves is as a company that solves a lending problem, right? We wouldn't be able to solve that problem without technology or without AI, you know? So, because right now we are able to, we've disbursed 1 million loans across Nigeria through our partners. The only way we've been able to do that is through the scale that the technology has given us with the data that we are processing. Now, if we did not work with our partners to get that data, it would be a 0-1 situation between sort of being able to give a loan to a customer or not being able to give a loan to a customer, right? In England, an individual has 50 different places they can go get a loan. So they can opt out of surrendering their data or permitting use of their data to provide loans. Not so with us.
You see, there are two pillars contesting for lending. So there is the traditional lending process that exists up till now, and there's the exceptional lending process that AI would help to unlock. So you find out that when you look at how data is being supervised or unsupervised in the back end, and then you marry it with the traditional one, you get ahead, the game. So there's always a scheme in the game. So the things that has happened in the advanced or in the European world is that they've got credit bureau and all sorts of sources where they can get metadata definition for lending that characterize a DNA of a lender. But we also have other anecdotes here that we can use as well. So you marry the traditional polyglot architecture with the exceptional one so that you can actually embed what AI is bringing. Because what AI does is that is empowering computers and systems to do what human beings would not be able to do. And that's the key. That's where we're here, and that's the future.
So at some point in my own life, I used to live in Europe. And I remember when data privacy started, they actually contacted me on GDPR. So like we already said, it's a thin line. They have my data, but I give them access and privilege to that data to be used. So that's how we have to even start in Nigeria first. You can't just gather people's data and use it when you like, how you like. But gathering of data as well is a bit expensive, because in fact, there's a lot of intangible assets in data. So the entire ecosystem of data management, data aggregation, data consolidation, data use as well, has to go through all that privacy. Who has access to my data? Who is using my, so it has to be driven from top bottom, policies, procedures, and governance. That's how I think it's going to work anyway. And we should learn some of the things that they've done in the United States or in China that is working for them, tweak it a bit, and then bring it to Nigeria. And I dare say that the risk department in CBN, for example, they are looking at how data privacy affects the ecosystem in Nigeria. And I think as more as this ovation or all these consolidated efforts come into fruition, you will have value in the end of it. But it's a continuous discovery. That's what I think it is anyway.
I think beyond addressing financial inclusion, lending also supports the development of the middle class, and the development of the middle class supports GDP. So I think it's just to emphasize its importance. And I think that based on the structure of our society, we have a lot of data, but it's non-traditional. So it does not fit into traditional credit processes. And AI is therefore required to process that non-traditional data to deliver lending. So I think that, provided that people are interested and willing to collaborate, I think the possibilities for using artificial intelligence to deliver lending services in Nigeria and Africa is tremendous.